A very good evening to one and all present here, and you're welcome to Wide Law Presents What's the Deal with Law Students. Today with me we have Anoushka Mishra. Say hi.
Hi guys.
And to give a little background info, both me and Anoushka are classmates. We are both in the second year of our law school, and today we are here to discuss the basic differences, stereotypes, and the way being a second generation lawyer and a first generation lawyer affects us. So, Anushka, are you excited?
I actually am very excited about it because I really wanted to discuss about this and talk about the stereotypes and prejudices around the way we are perceived as second generation and first generation lawyers.
I mean, I swear this is like the first, we have different streams, and this like the law fraternity might be the first one with stereotypes being, being this strict. Okay, like everyone knows about the first generation, second generation bias, and even like the CGIs talk about it. So yeah, it impacts a person a lot. So how about you? When did you first hear about this?
Actually, if I'm being completely honest, I've been hearing this all my life because the similar personality traits I would show as my mother. She's a lawyer. So, as similar traits I would show, people would be like, oh, you're going to do law, you're going to become a lawyer. And that is when the comparison begins. Because it's not just a comparison that is being done with your classmates, with your, batchmates, or around people in your similar age group and generation. It's being done with your own parent.
Like from the very
no
beginning.
yeah, exactly. And no matter how much you want to avoid that, there is no way through it or way around it.
I mean, I totally get that. And I mean, maybe it also helps you shape this image about yourself, right? That my mother is an amazing lawyer. I also have to, fill her shoes and become this competent lawyer, or else I'll be letting down everyone else. Or is it
It
something?
it def No. Agreed. I totally agree with you. It definitely does add on to this. I would say this dedication to do better, at least being able to live up to her own name. But I would
Yes.
also say that adds on to a lot of pressure because then I'm expected to do things her way. I'm expected. See, the thing is that when you are a first generation lawyer, you're stepping into the field with no. I wouldn't say no experience, but I would say no introduction per se. Like
Agreed.
nobody knows you there, so you can start from scratch, you can make mistakes, you can learn from your mistakes. But
Absolutely.
me being perceived as a second generation lawyer, I am always expected to be perfect. I am being expected to be on point, not make mistakes, always do my work correctly. And that sort of takes away the actual fun of being um
A learner.
I'm not sure, like, yeah, a learner, but I'm not sure if I can use this word, but a noob. Like,
Yes,
you
of
go from a
course.
noob level,
Right.
to a master level, but then you're already an intermediary. So that beginning, you don't get the beginning, and that sort of takes away from the fun of the entire learning process.
I mean, I can see how that can be troubling, living up to the expectations of people and the external pressure. It's kind of like people with really successful parents, like how celebrities are treated when their parents are like famous actors, and when they don't turn out to be as good as their parents, they are, this is a child of nepotism. They don't belong in the Bollywood industry. It's somehow dramatically, it bears a resemblance. So, but speaking as a first generation lawyer, so a little background info on me. My father is in the account section. My grandfather was an engineer, and everyone, literally everyone in my family, did something that is at least remotely. It's not strictly related to science, but they did something that has something to do with science. Me, I just had to be edgy, So I'm not sure that whether it was my hate for chemistry or my fondness of law, or there's a line there that has been blurred. So I don't know which outweighs which one, but I chose to do law, and I get why people would put pressure on you, because my father honestly still doesn't get what I do on my laptop the entire day. the other day he asked me that, what are you working on? And I said, it's a mood proposition. We write arguments. And then he asked me that you're in the second year. How can you write, an argument on cases? Shouldn't you be learning how to make affidavits and stuff like that? And it was it was hilarious to me because it's and but your mother would never like. But then again, it brings me to the question: does your mother also have like similar expectations from you to know things, or does she understand that you also are a noob, as you say, and you deserve your share of mistakes?
Yeah, actually, thank you so much. That's an amazing question because I wanted to address that. But before I answer that, when you brought up the question of nepotism, and this just came to my mind that in whichever industry you go, no, and whether it's law or acting or whatever industry you go in, at the end of the day, your skills matter. If you
Absolutely.
were to look at actors whose kids are acting right now, they did 2 movies, 3 movies. After that, they're not filming anymore, and that is solely because they lack the skills that their parents had. So even if I were to be a second generation lawyer, yes, I agree that I have privilege and I have a sort of like a turbo booster behind me because my mother is a lawyer, and it's easier for me to access resources. But at the same
Exactly.
time, my skills matter a lot, because if I might be able to do things until my mother is there. When she's not there, how will I survive? It's kind of like that. And then coming to your question, actually she does understand this a lot, because that is exactly what I'm talking about. For anybody who has a bit of knowledge about law, they think that we are people who are bound to do things, in the sense that we'll be first year we took admission in college. Okay, where's my affidavit? Can you write a contract for me? Can you do this? Can you
Exactly.
give me legal advice?
And
And
the
I'm
and
like,
the
I can, but I don't know how accurate and helpful that would be.
Right, right. In fact, engineering students or even design students, they are allowed to make mistakes. For lawyers, it's like they can ask me anything ranging from CRPC to IPC, and they would ask you, oh, what is the section for, if someone, I don't know, broke my bike and left. And I'm like, I'm not sure, I haven't studied that. And they would be like,
And
oh, but you,
actually, I have an amazing instance to tell you about, since we're talking about this. This one
please.
time I was interning in court and I went with my mother.
Hmm.
So what happened was that we sat down with a fellow colleague of hers, and they were discussing upon a case, and they were discussing about CPC. It's the
Okay.
civil procedural code.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously I was in the third semester, so I hadn't read anything about it. So he asked me to interpret a section. And I'm
Of
like,
CPC.
I was like, that's a very interesting question you have there, sir.
Oh my
Because I
god.
have no clue about it. He's
Was
like,
it
oh,
like
do
a
you know
fellow
what is
lawyer
audit?
or a judge?
Yeah. It was a fellow lawyer, and
Okay.
he just, see, that's the thing, because his kids did not do law. His kids
Yes.
went into like different things, so he's not aware of like what we are studying right now. So he asked me, oh, have you read Order 21? Tell me how. He was just trying to, interact with me. So he was like,
Yes,
oh,
yes.
you're doing law. How about you tell me how is Order 21 applicable here? I'm like, I
Poor
have to know
you.
what Order 21 is in order to tell you how to apply it.
It's like he was just trying to make conversation, but he chose the worst way
Yeah,
possible to do
and
it.
he's like, and when I wasn't able to tell him, he was like, okay. And I'm just looking at my mother. I'm like, what do I do now? Because I don't know. And
Like
she
they
then she
only.
then explained it to him. Yeah, she then explained it to him. That actually she's just in third semester. They haven't been taught. They've read basics about law and like contracts
Exactly.
and torts.
And only law students and like your parent or like any second generation lawyer's parent would know that how our the law student curriculum goes. So for others, it's just that, oh, she stepped into the law school, she just knows already. It's like a superpower being given to us. We suddenly, you
and
know
and
we
it's not this, it's, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but
you
it's
know
not
no.
just that people are assuming this, like people who know us. It's that people in your own like batch, your teachers and everybody else is assuming that you know things. And the worst fact about this entire thing is that even if it's, say, for example, I personally do not take help from my mother because, again, I don't want the badge that, oh, her mother's a lawyer, she's helping her out. So I personally do not take help from her.
I mean,
But
that's
when
quite
I am,
honorable of you, yeah.
yeah, thank you. But it's like, even if I'm doing something good, and even if I know something, say for example, if I'm reading up about constitution or CRPC or IPC on my own, and I'm understanding things, and there's a debate that I could, put things into or put things out there,
Yes.
it is being assumed that I know all of this because my mother's a lawyer.
I mean,
And that, have you ever gotten into that situation where you do everything but somebody else takes the credit for it?
yes, exactly. Every group
That is
project ever.
exactly how it feels like.
and
That
and
is
that's like the
exactly
worst
what it feels
feeling
like.
ever, because I remember
Exactly.
I teamed up with someone, okay, and she was much better in academics, like she was the topper, okay, and I wasn't like a bad student, but I wasn't as good as her. So this subject that we are talking, like, as I said, I had like a particular hatred for chemistry, okay, and we sort of like the teachers put us together, and for once I actually worked really hard on it. Okay, I wanted to prove it to them that I can also get my shit together and do good in chemistry. But sadly, after the project was done, she just came up with a title, okay, and the whole thing was like, okay, she worked with her, na, she must have like helped her a lot, and it was like, no, and there's no way to prove your innocence, okay, there's no way to prove your hard work either. So I guess it goes quite it says a lot about you being subjected to stereotypes and how much it affects you. But that being said, I know you have already talked about this, but the whole idea that as a second generation lawyer, you don't need to worry about internships, you don't need to worry about gaining experience, because you are seeing your mother do the same things, right? So it is like second nature for you to know how a pleading is done, how drafting is done. So does that resonate with you?
See, if I'm being hand on heart honest, then I would say that I know a little more as compared to people in my own batch. I can't compare, I can't
Absolutely,
speak
yes.
for the rest of the world, but I would most definitely say I know more because of the sole reason that I've seen all of this happening and seen all of this being done since I was a very young kid. And since I've learned how to understand this basic cognizance has been understood by me, since then I've been understanding what everything is. So I would say that it is a plus point when it comes to the technicalities of the work. But
Yes,
yet again,
exactly.
when even if I'm interning, the thing is that when you're interning, it comes back to the same thing. When you're interning under your own parent, um, that is again, people are viewing you as, oh, you know things, oh, that's your mother, you're obviously going to intern under her, it's easier for you to get internships. But if I'm going somewhere outside for a firm or you know anywhere else, like somewhere where people don't know who I am, then it is similarly as competitive for me as it is for everybody else. Like for
Of course.
internships, I would say that it might be easier for me to get them as far as like interning or working under a particular lawyer's office is concerned. That if I want to work in the High Court or the Supreme Court or any courts nearby, it is easier for me
Yes.
because my mother knows people.
To
But
clarify, she is from Delhi. Yeah, continue.
yeah, so it is easier for me to do that. But when we talk about firms and all, it is equally as competitive. I've been rejected from shit tons of in shit tons of law firms, so I know that I won't get in just because I'm a second generation
I,
lawyer.
I, I do understand that, and especially being from a non-NLU college, it is difficult for us. It like firms don't see whether you are a first generation lawyer or a second generation lawyer. All they see is credibility and your CV. So of course. And speaking of knowledge and experience, I had a question that do you think that you already mentioned that you have some sort of privilege by working under your mother, but do you think like there's this trend going on with first generation lawyers that I would not work with my parent in order to, prove that I am not relying upon her or him for gaining experience. But honestly, on a personal note, I think that it's kind of foolish to miss out an opportunity that is being given to you, because, okay, I'm sure that the others might say things that might hurt you, but it's not your job to care about other people's remarks, right? And especially being a lawyer is a tough job, and you should know how to overlook other people's comments. So do you think this trend is worth practicing, or what are your views?
Um, See, what I think is that it is and yet it isn't. In the sense that if
Schrodinger's
like it
law.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is sort of like a paradoxical question, but I'll try to answer it to my best of capabilities.
Yes,
So, for
absolutely.
example, for example, I'll tell about what I think, that until I am learning, like obviously law is something that you're learning constantly, but until like I'm in college, until I am not at all capable of practicing law myself, I think it would be the best thing for me to work under my own mother, because and like any connections through her that I can work under, because I will get personal attention there. And I know this sounds very wrong, but it's kind of like what my mother can teach me. I'm pretty sure if I were to go and intern under a random lawyer, he won't be teaching me, because as a matter of fact, at the end of the day, she's my parent. She wants me to succeed in life, so she will teach me everything that she knows and to the best of her own capabilities.
I think
While
I
at the
think
same time,
Yeah,
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 please
continue.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think that you do not need to have anything to be ashamed about, because at the end of the day, we are all privileged somehow. Okay, it's like, imagine my dad, like, we are not people, like, we would consider ourselves considerably well off, right? We have all the comforts given to us. So imagine my dad gives me a phone, or like we get an AC. So it's not that I won't use it, because the other people might make fun of us for using it, or for being privileged. It is just that something you are getting, and you have to, it's so weird,
Exactly.
and I don't
I
know how
am
to
not, no,
explain
no, no.
this. Hmm.
Like, I totally got you. And for me
Yes.
personally, I am not at all ashamed about it. I mean, like, my mother's an amazing lawyer, so I'm actually very proud of her. And I'm like, I'm very happy I get to learn from her, because she has so much knowledge to give, so much to teach. And when we look at the other aspect of it, I would also say that I also want to practice on my own, like individually, where I'm not being known as Shashi Mishra's daughter.
Right,
You know,
right.
like
I mean,
I
that's
also want
the
to
end
intern.
goal,
I also
right?
want to, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. See, from as far as I have seen, as far as I've discussed law with my mother, the way she sees and interprets it, the way I see and interpret it, is poles apart. It's actually poles apart.
That's an interesting take on our conversation. So, you and your mother have different takes on things.
Different takes on a lot of things, very different takes rather. And that is this, I think, rooting thing where I think I want to individually work somewhere else.
I
But
mean,
as
it's
far as learning is concerned, I don't give it a second thought. I do not care what anybody else has to say anything about it, because I personally believe that I have a lot to learn and I can only get it here.
I think that our conversation was supposed to be like, when I started this episode, I was thinking, okay, this is quite a controversial topic, and I hope that this doesn't result in a debate or me fighting with you. But I'm so happy that this ended up being such a wholesome episode. And as a first generation lawyer, as I said, we might have our differences. I might be privileged in a way that I do not. I'm not exposed to the pressure of not making mistakes. Okay, the things that you are expected to know, I can learn from scratch, and I also have the privilege to research on my own, find out my own interests, and seek knowledge from people who would teach me in a way that I would like to learn. So we both have our privileges, we both have our disadvantages, but at the end of the day, the end goal is giving back after getting the privilege, right? So our end goal is
Exactly.
to be an amazing lawyer, and I guess it doesn't matter where we are getting the knowledge from. It's about how we execute it. So yeah, enough PSA. It was lovely having you, Anushka, and
Well,
I'm so
thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much because I loved talking about what we just talked about. And
exactly.
it was actually something that if I had the chance, I would scream at the top of my lungs that stop stereotyping, stop thinking that I know everything, or stop thinking that whatever I know comes from my mother. There are shit that I read too.
I mean, I honestly thought that it would turn into a rant, and I also needed to get things off my chest because I'm tired of people like second generation lawyers getting complaining about internships when they are already getting so much from their own parent. But talking to you made me realize that it's hard out there. It's hard out there being a second generation. It's hard out there being a law student. Period. So I think we can conclude on that point, shall we?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay then. Signing off, Shivangi and Anushka. And if you want us to make more episodes or want us to answer your questions, then do write an email to us at widelaw45@gmail.com, and we'll meet you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.